Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bxb'S Bits and Bobs, episode 59, Farm to Table Vaulting. It's been a long delayed episode, and I'm really sorry about that. We were originally going to come in about 2 weeks ago, then we tried a week ago, and we had loads of technical problems, which, that got deleted. It doesn't exist anymore on the internet, and to be honest, it was the best show we'd ever done. And it's such a shame that it no longer exists. It's just out there in the ether of podcast history, the #1 best podcast ever made in the universe, which is a shame. It's a shame. And much like the Tenacious D song Tribute, this will be a tribute to that podcast. It's not that podcast. But joining me today is the Christmas miracle, Richard Worrell.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Here he is. Here he is. And I'm your host, obviously, Ben, as always. And yeah, it's good to be back. Fingers crossed we don't have those technical problems we had last time, because they were the kind of problems we couldn't do anything about, and they could just happen again. I really hope they don't. It would suck if they did, but fingers crossed they won't. Richard has just told me, though, off air, that he no longer eats pigs. And I think that's worth bringing up at Christmas, because I eat even more pigs at Christmas.
It's really going to hit home Christmas Day, because pigs in blankets, that is a thing for me. I love meat. I really love meat. I just had an epiphany. I thought, pigs are socialized creatures. They're intelligent creatures. I wouldn't knowingly eat a chimp or a dolphin or a dog.
You can eat a dolphin because they rape people. Yeah, rape other dolphins. That's not very nice. So eat dolphins. Okay? I think, that's fine.
Okay. So would you eat a human rapist?
Yes. Yes, I would. It'd be delicious. The punishment. Yeah, I noticed the phone's ringing there. It's always great timing. We literally just started recording. We've been talking for half an hour prior to recording. And did the phone go off then? No.
Not at all.
That's how it works.
So
that's podcast.
It will be the wife, and she knows that I'm podcasting. So
what a bee. Oh, dear. Unbelievable. You need to sort her out, Richard. Put her in her place. Slap her with a pig.
Yeah. I'll put her in the pen.
No, I respect it, though. I work with a vegan. I work with a couple of vegetarians. The great thing about 2018, you can choose that. You can do that. That's absolutely viable now.
I had some vegan burgers yesterday, actually, and they were actually good.
So
this is from a burger aficionado. They were actually fine. I could live on them.
So these are the ones, because there's the Honest Burger chain. Do these vegan burgers now, which are like imitations of beef burgers. Like they're you wouldn't necessarily know it wasn't beef. Supposedly, and I was speaking to this vegan chap I work with, and he was telling me that really, really impressive, because he wasn't always a vegan he could compare. So I was like, wow, okay, I might have to give that a go, because why not? A bit less red meat in your diet, that's not a bad thing.
So it doesn't have to be like all meat is out now. You can do it by degrees. Just cutting down is a good thing for diet and for the planet, frankly.
Yes, for the environment. I mean, I couldn't care less about diet, but I think for the environment, I think that's what the biggest problem is. Like the cattle industry and stuff, to do with how much lowlands and stuff, are deforested for farming cattle and stuff to that effect. So that let's be less dependent on red meat. That's not a bad thing. However, it does taste really good.
It does taste good. But try those
made
burgers.
Me hungry just thinking about it. I'm going to go next time I'm there.
Get them in Iceland. They're called Iceland No Ball Burgers.
Ironic, they've gone from horse to no cows or meat at all in their burgers.
Well,
that's a change.
That wasn't their fault, was it?
I've eaten horse knowingly, and thought it was pretty good. So, like, when in France, that's quite common. So I have had some horse. Yeah, I went through this stage where I was trying to eat as many different meats as possible around the world. So I've had things like crocodile and alligator and ostrich and bison and a long ass list of different types of meat. And it was. Have you had whale meat? I've never been to Japan, so I've never. You don't see whale come up very often, do you? So
I had whale meat in Iceland, the country, rather than a shop.
Either's possible. Both are possible. But no, I have not had whale meat. So how was the whale meat? Fatty? I want to imagine it was fatty.
No, it was served. You'd think, when you imagine a whale, it probably comes in big servings, right? But you just get these really fine little slivers of like ham-like fish, and it tastes can't quite remember the taste. I remember it being a little bit salty, a little bit tougher than usual, than like you'd expect from like fish meat. It's not obviously not a fish. I don't think whales are fish.
There's mammals,
but, yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting experience. One that I felt quite shit about, but then it was already dead. It's not like they killed it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few weeks ago. I went to a wild game night where I had foie gras, which I know a lot of people would turn their noses up due to the way things. Yeah, I mean, but then again, I could use exactly the same excuse you just used, which was I didn't kill it or I didn't rear it, so it's already dead. What's me? But the problem is, they will keep killing and cooking these things if people keep buying them, so it doesn't really work.
I was thinking on degrees of scale, like my plate of 3 slices of whale is not going to cause them to go out and kill another one. They've probably got lots of whale left. I mean,
yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but
I'm not trying to forgive myself for it. It is quite bad. But...
To be honest, I would admit my choice of that item off the menu was pure curiosity. I'd never had it before, which is one of my biggest weaknesses. When I see something I've never had, I would like to try it. I'm a foodie. That's just in my nature. And I'm always, and I don't try and justify it. And I'm just like, man, that did taste really good. It did taste good. It's not like you get a lot of it, but it was like a little additive thing to this starter I had, and yeah, it was delicious. So, horrible middle-class white men being horrible middle-class white men. That's just the way it is. Should we talk a bit about what we've been watching in Crossing the Stream?
Crossing the Stream.
Yeah, so obviously there's stuff on our list here that we talked about a week ago. But there's also a few bits that we didn't. I want to mention quickly that I finished Final Space on Netflix, and that's this animation, sci-fi animation that ostensibly is a comedy, and it definitely starts quite funny, but by the end, it's full-on heart-wrenching drama. Like
looks a bit Futurama.
It does look a bit Futurama, and it starts very Futurama, like farcical comedy characters. But quickly, it's only 10 episodes, but quickly it pivots and it becomes a sort of thing with elements of humor, but with a very high stakes drama element to it. And you really start to care about the characters. So when things happen to characters, they die, or, things are left unresolved, shall we say, by the end, you're gripped, waiting for more. Very excited to see, they got a 2-season pickup from the beginning, so there's going to be a second season. And no, it's very good sci-fi. Like, I was proper impressed with the sci-fi element of it, as well as some of the jokes. Mooncake, which is this planet destroying adorable little green thing that goes around going chuckity chuckity bite chuckity pop like this, doing these. I want that plush so bad. I love that character, love him. The main character, Gary, goes from this bumbling buffoon-like guy into this sort of reluctant hero who ends up sacrificing everything to try and save people, and it's a real arc. No, super impressive stuff, like really, really cool, and the animation is fantastic. And cool. At 20 odd minutes an episode, only 10 episodes,
power through that. I'll give that a watch later.
Yeah, no, well worth checking out, mate. Yeah, really, really good stuff. And I know I'm late to this party, but I'm proper hooked into The Office US now.
What, for the first time?
Yeah, mate, for the first time. Yeah.
Oh, that's good, right? It's a good show.
Good.
I caught some of it on Comedy Central the other day, and I need to watch more of this. It's not on Netflix anymore though, so I watched the UK version again instead.
It's on Amazon. I'm watching it on Amazon, and I'm about halfway through season 3 now. And the other night, the wife was out, and I ended up watching like 8 episodes in a row without really noticing. And it's just. Yes, like you watch one episode. It's always put me off back in the day. You'd watch one episode, especially an early one. You go, "Oh my god, this is just so uncomfortable. This is so embarrassing." But once you get past that initial feeling and you get to know those characters, it does that thing where you suddenly find yourself caring, and you're like, there's a drama element to it as well as the silly over the top comedy elements.
Yes.
And the thing that I love about Michael, right, and he's the main cringy element, I suppose, but. He is the most sort of like, you can tell almost everything he does comes from such a place of love.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't really hate him for his ignorance. he does stupid shit that's really offensive all the time, and yet you know he's just trying to do the right thing. No malice, never any malice. And yeah, so he's just infinitely likable for that, you know. And that's why there are scenes when characters leave and they talk to him. It's like, oh, you left. He thinks they left because of him. And it's like, no, you were an amazing boss. I love you weren't the problem, because that's the thing. There is this sense that he's always fighting for those people, and he's always doing what he can to try and make the environment better for them, even though it's often the opposite, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Richard, but sometimes you'll see something he does, and you're like, oh God, I did something like that the other day.
It's a constant worry. Yeah, being in a management role at work, it's always a thing for me, because I care about what happens to my team as well. Yeah, and it's you do sometimes think, how Brent am I being? How Michael Scott am I being?
It's like, are you looking at you? Oh God, I literally did that. Yeah, like that part of that moment. I was like, that's something I did last week. I thought that was a good idea. And you just sort of, what it does is it helps you kind of, because you get, you know, after a while, I came through the ranks to my position, and it was like, after a while, you start to sort of forget a little bit about what it was like down there, and then it helps you put it in perspective, and you go just helps you see yourself as a manager from the perspective of the people under you, and you're like, oh God, yeah, that would come across like a real dick thing, even though you're trying to be nice and helpful. They're just going to think you're a twat. Yeah. And it's just like, a good point. So it's kind of instructional for every manager out there. I highly recommend watching it, because it helps you look at yourself in better ways. So it's incredibly well observed. I do love a well observed comedy that nails real life. You know, it's why I like Big Mouth so much. You know, it really
and something that's instructive to your actual employment. Very good.
Yeah, I think it will help me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. What about you? What have you? Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that point you made about what he does always comes from a place of love. That contrasts really strongly with Ricky Gervais and his later shows, because I was watching Extras yesterday, and it really struck me. I didn't really recognize it at the time, first time round, but watching it yesterday, I was thinking, Andy Millman is a really horrible man, and you can't quite get the same sympathies or the same care for the characters as you do in The Office watching Extras, because the central character is just so spiteful and malicious and selfish.
Thing for me is why I never got on with the UK Office, and I'm not even going to try. I don't really like Ricky Gervais. I think he's good as a stand-up and stuff, and I can do that, but I don't like his acting work. Whereas Steve Carell, you know, is brilliant. I absolutely love Steve Carell. I love that. It's crazy seeing so many of those cast members that have gone on to do much bigger things as well, watching it now, and you're just like pointing out, seeing people go, oh, that one's got her own Netflix show. That one's doing movies and directing stuff now, you know, that one's did the Hangover trilogy, and you're just like, that's crazy. Everybody started in this show. And it's I just find Steve Carell infinitely more likable than Ricky Gervais. Sorry, definitely. Ricky Gervais. So you got some stuff on your list. Is this the first time seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp?
No, second time. But I bought it on Xbox because it was one of the few,
one of the four you were telling me,
HD movies that you can get on Xbox now. And it's still good. What more can you say about it? I mean, most people will have seen that by now, haven't they?
The only thing I can say about that is that, like, normally I'd have had that disc pre-ordered.
Yeah.
I don't have that disc pre-ordered. I will own it because I own every Blu-ray, and now they've gone 4K disc of the Marvel movies, and I will get it for the collection. But I thought the film was fine, but like infinitely forgettable. Like just not.
I think so. I really enjoyed it until the end, and not Hugh. What's his name? Pym. Hank Pym. That's it. Yeah. Hank Pym, his wife, who he rescues from the void, whatever.
Yeah.
Just that whole thing about the powers that she brings back. I was like, what?
Yep. I mean, and you're not like mad Marvel person like me. No. So yeah, I know that character they've just completely changed her. It's like, what is this? What's going on? Why is she god level all of a sudden? It's really strange. I don't know. I mean, Yeah, I like the ending, the post-credit ending bit. I thought it was nice how it tied it into everything. But yeah, I'll get it. And it's like, it's weird because I remember watching the original Ant-Man before going to see this and really enjoying it because it was the first time I'd ever rewatched it. And they're good films. They just feel unnecessary. They just don't feel like they are really required inside the Marvel envelope of movies. And maybe that's their strength.
If you're looking for relevant context, yeah, I suppose there isn't any, but it works in and of itself. It's fine.
Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, in the kind of comic book landscape, there are the big comics that will be all relevant and connected, and the events and stuff. And then, like comic books, there'll be those side stories, which are just character things doing their own little thing off to the side. And that's what Ant-Man and the Wasp feels like. And Ant-Man in general, it's like, yeah, he's not trying to do that, so that's fine. But at the same time, when you've got so many films to see and so many things to do, it's like, it's the same thing with comics. Generally, you'll have to pick and choose, and they're the books that you won't be reading. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got others you need to read for the main story bit in the middle, the main event. So it kind of feels a bit like that. Like, it's the ones that you don't need. They know you don't need them, but they're perfectly fine. They're still enjoyable.
I don't know. I feel like it adds a bit of relief to the universe. It takes it down a notch, gives you a bit of a break until it ramps up in the more heavy hitting movies, I guess. So it's got its place, even if it doesn't have any too much of a narrative impact on the whole.
I will definitely get it because I'm getting really excited about Captain Marvel. So I'm getting ready for that. I'm hyped for that early next year. Solo. You watched Solo again.
I watched this yesterday. Another one of the other 4 UHD films I found.
So they're only Disney movies, aren't they? That's the only ones that are available.
That seems to be, but not all of them. It's really strange.
Okay.
So yeah, Solo is in UHD on Xbox for anyone that's into that. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting much from it though, so maybe that.
This is your first time?
First time watching it.
Ah, right. Okay. Post infinite discussion of it about how meh it was. So you probably had your expectations lowered.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've had
the way to do it.
Yeah,
the way to do it.
Moaning about it, but yeah, it's some nice fan service in there. Seeing
is that how you read it? Is it nice fan service? Let's explain why he's called Solo. No, don't stop. No, God. Let's explain why his blaster is his. No, please stop. Please stop. Please.
It was fine. It was nice to see Darth Maul in there. It was nice to see
spoilers.
Is it spoilers now?
Yeah, it's a huge reveal at the end of that movie. Right. But okay, I don't care because it's Solo. I won't hold it against you.
But. Okay. Yeah, it's nice to see Warwick Davis make an appearance.
Sure.
Yeah, I just enjoyed it. I thought it was funny.
It's another one. It's like Ant-Man and the Wasp again for me. It's like I own all the Star Warses for movies on all the best formats. Have I bought Solo yet? Nope.
I guess it is like Ant-Man. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sort of downtime movie. But yeah, I wasn't expecting a lot, and it delivered a lot more than I thought it would. And Sarah watched it with me. She enjoyed it too. She would normally say if it was a stinker, but she thought it was good.
It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It's not like it's poorly made or the effects are shit or the acting is terrible. I mean, nobody ever wants to see Korra again because, wow, how necessary was that? But, beyond that, it's like, yeah, they did a difficult job, which was recasting Han Solo. And I thought they did that well enough. It's just so fucking unnecessary. And it's like, the problem I think it has is that everybody is comparing it to Rogue One, which was a masterpiece of, you don't think this matters. Why are they doing this? Then you watch it and it's like, holy shit, this recontextualizes the entirety of the original trilogy.
Totally.
Like genius filmmaking. And it's got some of the best battles ever in Star Wars as well for the dudes like us that love that shit. Yeah. And yet Solo just feels like, well, we know he's going to meet Princess Leia and fall in love with her. So why are we introducing an earlier love interest? Because we know they don't end up together. There's just so much like shit in there that you're just like going, do I need to know why he's called Solo? Do we need to know where he gets his blaster from? Do we need to know that there's some weird imprisoned AI droid that's actually the brain of the Millennium Falcon now? What the fuck? Like,
I did really enjoy that character though. L3 was quality.
I thought she was great, but then but now her consciousness is trapped in a way in which she can't actually express herself in an infinite prison of suffering. Cool, lucky her. So it's just, and that's why there's a slightly weird I want to fuck the ship aspect to Han's relationship with the Millennium Falcon. Just double weird. Like what? Oh, and by the way, Lando was fucking her first for real when she was actually a droid. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's some places we've gone here. Yeah. It's just, but then there's that awesome Kessel sequence. You know, with the big space monster, which is completely bonkers and weird and but dark as fuck and like really scary. Like actually like Cthulhu-esque Elder God style space alien, and I was like, Jesus, that is some scary shit. That was cool.
That is one of the things from sort of Solo lore that you think, it is worth seeing that. The amount that's talked about doing the Kessel run.
Well, it's not talked about much. It's talked about once, but everybody's referred to it since. So it's not really brought up a lot.
Not
if you think about it.
But you know, it's something that everyone knows of Solo, isn't it? So yeah, it's nice to go back to that.
And the word that I will keep bringing up, the worst bit is the name. Because it's like he has the coolest fucking name in Star Wars, right? And they make it so fucking lame.
Yeah,
why
like
he's
really
called Solo. It's just, oh, well, you don't have family. Solo. Oh,
it's almost Starbucks customer service level naming, isn't it?
Yeah, he said, my name's Smith, Han Smith, Solo. I just spelled it wrong. He's the fucking, oh man. I'm going to be a great pilot, by the way. I'm going to be a great pilot. Oh, okay. Well then, oh yeah, I'll send you to the academy. Oh, now you're on the ground. You're not actually learning to be a pilot at all. They're saying that ground forces bit with just the throwaway troops who aren't even stormtroopers. That was cool as well. Yeah. Finding out, however, that Chewbacca eats people, bit disturbing. A little bit disturbing. But I guess he was really like horribly treated. But you know, there's some strange stuff.
He now goes to Iceland.
Yes. Just eats the horses and the whales now. It's fine. But no, there's also the great Beckett sort of ancillary characters. You know, the ones connected to like Thandie Newton's character. Really interesting characters, and the pilot with the forearms all killed within like 20 minutes of meeting.
Yeah, I thought that. I was surprised that they got rid of Thandie Newton so quickly.
She was really interesting. I really liked her character, but no, she'd gone, move the plot along. You know. The one bit I like
that in common with Rogue One, though, right? It's where it doesn't shy away from disposing of interest.
The difference with Rogue One is that they're building a Dirty Dozen team that knows they're going to have to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a different structure, isn't it? So it's an expected part of that formula. I did, however, the one bit I liked Beckett a lot. I liked Woody Harrelson, and I liked the fact that Han learns to shoot first because of his betrayal.
Yes.
And that's a character moment that's subtly explained. It's not forced down your neck like the name it was and the blaster was and all of that stuff. So I thought that was cool. I like that. Yeah, and Darth Maul was fun. Completely unnecessary, but fun.
I didn't see that as a big spoiler because it's not like it turns the film around. It's just cool to see, isn't it?
Yes, that, you know, confirmation now in the Disneyverse, you know, in canon. He survived post Phantom Menace. You know, so that's pretty cool. You know, I'm up for seeing some more of that. Why not? Yeah, okay. So what's Cam?
Cam is a Netflix movie.
It's just called Cam. CAM.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was a standard. Right. Okay. So what's that?
It's about webcam girls, and it's
hello.
Yeah, I'm slightly embarrassed to be talking about it. I watched it. Not for the nudity. I watched it for the articles.
Becky really likes Star Wars.
No, it's I saw that it had some people involved that had done what was that movie?
Some of your favorite shows.
Get Out. You remember the film Get Out?
Yes.
Yeah, so I thought it was going to be a horror along similar lines, and it sort of is, but nowhere near as good. So it's sort of a metaphor for how much of what you put on your webcam feed or the internet in general, how much of it is you. Can you still hear me? Why are you waving?
No, I'm waving because I'm on my webcam feed.
Oh, okay.
On the internet, putting out myself.
Yeah.
I'll start taking off my shirt in a minute.
Oh, please do. I'll start tipping you. And
yeah,
it talks about how much is appropriate to put of yourself out there, really, before you start to lose who you are and start, becoming sort of a plaything for the internet. And
interesting.
It uses this idea quite literally. So this girl who is a webcam girl, she's got quite a popular channel. She wants it to be even more popular. And the only way she's going to do it, she thinks, is to break some of her rules. So she doesn't typically appear nude. And she doesn't do anything too sort of perverted. But she starts to do things that are more and more out of kilter with what she said she wouldn't want to get involved with, just to get more viewers. And there's a point in the film where she does something that really sort of goes over the edge of where she wanted to be going. And the next day, she tries to log into her account and she can't. It turns out someone else is already logged in, but it is her that's logged in somehow. And the rest of the movie is exploring her trying to figure out how someone else who looks exactly like her has taken control of her channel and is misrepresenting who she is as a person, not just on the channel, but in real life. So it's like it'll start going around her actual house and getting involved with her family members and stuff like that she hasn't actually done, but other people think that it's her doing it.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting sort of exploration of how far you can let your own personality and your own reputation get out of control to the point that you can't get it back. In quite a literal interpretation.
Okay,
so it was interesting, but not nowhere near as good as Get Out.
I'll ask you after the podcast if it's supernatural bullshit or if it's just her losing her mind, because I'm curious as to which way they're taking that. But don't say now, because that'll be a big spoiler. Okay. I think I just wanted to mention a couple of things we mentioned a week ago, though, because They Shall Not Grow Old is still worth talking about, even though we're 2 weeks now or more away from the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I and Remembrance Sunday. Have you had a chance to watch it, Richard?
No, I haven't yet. No.
Please find the time. I know you'd find it fascinating. It's an incredible piece of technological filmmaking that Peter Jackson has done here by recoloring and in the most realistic ways possible, not like sometimes the slightly garish recoloring you see on the History Channel, but he's recolored, retreated all this footage from World War I to the point where it makes it look like it was shot yesterday. And what it does is it kind of takes away that mystique we've built around some of that history from that conflict, and then it's completely narrated, only narrated by actual recordings of survivors and veterans of World War I before they passed away, which most of them, I think most if not all, have now done. In the 70s as well. So back when they were less maybe looking back at things, a bit more patchily negatively. So when they all had their faculties, and it's absolutely fascinating how most of these guys treated it as, at the time, a good lark, a change of pace from the times down pit, or down factory. So it's really, really amazing documentary. It was on BBC2.
BBC2, right? I was going to ask where.
Yes, so you can watch it on iPlayer. Hopefully, it's still on iPlayer, and it's moving, upsetting, but also it gives you a real different take on that conflict. It's absolutely fantastic.
I'm looking it up on IMDb, and some of the keywords are peculiar.
Okay.
World War I, fine.
Yeah.
1910s, fine. Male rear nudity. Much of that?
Oh yeah. There's a scene where they're like showing the dudes how they had to take a shit, and they're basically all sat along this pole hanging over a ditch, and the guy telling the story is about how they guffawed when said pole broke and all dudes ended up in ditch covered in their own shit. That would probably be your male rear nudity, I suspect. Okay. Any other keynote? Any keywords that you'd like to query?
That's the one that stands out.
That's it's great because it tells the day to day. It's not about the grand strategies. It's not about. It doesn't really ever make it clear exactly when in the conflict any of it's set, because it's not about that. It's about the human experiences of the conflict, and it's absolutely mind-boggling when you see the shots of no man's land colored to the point where they look like you're seeing them right now. You look out there and it's desolation that's hard to grasp, but it does a better job of it. I have never I don't think understood the reality of World War I as well as I have after watching that documentary. It genuinely is an incredibly impressive piece, and if you're into recent history, because that's what it is, well worth checking out to everybody. Just incredible. So please do that. Watch it this afternoon, Richard. It would be a good Sunday tea time watching if you have the time this evening. And I just quickly mentioned, have you seen The Night Comes for Us yet, Rich? Another film I know you'd be all up for on Netflix.
I've watched the trailer. I have added it to my watch list.
Watch it.
I'm waiting for Sarah to sit down with me. She has a finite appetite for subtitles, so it's waiting for the right.
It's not super wordy, but it's much more about the action. This movie, kind of like The Raid, because it's made by the guys that made The Raid. It's not like sometimes when you watch those films from Hong Kong or Asia or Korea, there's just dialogue, and I don't mind it, but it's easy to miss sometimes key moments and stuff because it can be so wordy. That is not this. It's a very simple premise, basically. Bad guy, triad enforcer, finds his humanity again when he sees a little girl that he's meant to murder. After killing her entire village, he decides to save her, turn on the triad, and it's about him trying to get away from that life while they send basically an army of their own enforcers to get him, and just wipe out everyone in his life as sort of revenge. And it's got the most brutal, gory fight scenes. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so hard hitting, incredibly well shot. I think it's possibly I think I preferred it to The Raid 2, but there's something about the simplicity of the original Raid that I still really, really enjoy. However, this is absolutely fantastic. The Night Comes for Us. Please do check it out. Anything you'd want to quickly mention from your viewing from 3-4 weeks ago now?
What should I mention? I do want to mention The Sinner because we talked about that quite a lot last week, which won't be heard now. So I'll mention that again.
The greatest podcast of all time. Yeah,
the greatest podcast of all time. So let's try and get some of that magic back. The Sinner is another Netflix show now on its second season. The first season focused on Jessica Biel as a murderess, and it was. I was going to say Bill Murray. It's not Bill Murray. What's the actor's name? Who's the?
I haven't seen it.
President in Independence Day. Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman. Yeah, Bill Murray would make it a very different.
So Bill Pullman is the detective of the piece, trying to work out why Jessica Biel has stabbed someone to death in front of her family for no apparent reason. So it's an interesting twist on the whodunit genre, because from the first scene who done it, and it's just trying to work out, well, why the fuck?
Yeah.
And trying to eke out suspense and tension, intrigue over 10 episodes when you already know, or you think you know, everything that's already happened. So it's an interesting spin on the genre. Second season, no Jessica Biel, but it's about a kid who does some murders in his family. And again, similar shenanigans. Bill Pullman working out what's going on. It's good.
So off of your recommendations last week, I told my wife about this and added it to our list. And I think we're going to watch it. I'm intrigued by how that works. Definitely. Restructuring the formulas in that way for that kind of procedural sort of stuff. I'm very curious. So yes, we are going to check that out. Definitely. Based on your recommendations. So.
Cool.
Couple of things I wanted to touch upon outside of crossing the streams. I got a new iPhone.
Did you?
I got an iPhone XR, which is huge. Been 3 years since I got a new phone. I'm less and less bothered by it, but like, you know, getting new phones now, it's not really what it used to be especially when Steve was running the show. It's very good. The screen is incredible. I actually quite like the extra size, getting used to it a little bit because it is about 50% larger than the phone I had previously. Face ID is evil black magic that works flawlessly. Super impressive. I can be waking up in the morning without my glasses on, for example, in the dark, and it will still unlock when it sees my face. So yeah, it's quite impressive technology that they've got in there. And yeah, the speed of it. What I might find myself doing is actually playing some games on iOS now for the first time in a long time, now that I've actually got a system that can handle it. So I might start delving into what's available on that platform, because it is a more and more viable every year. It becomes a more and more viable gaming platform. So I might well start looking into that a little bit. But yeah, it's a good phone. It's a phone.
It's weird that it used to be a big event getting a new phone.
Yeah, you'd be well excited, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But the technological, you know, innovation between each model now is less and less. The thing I'm enjoying the most is that I'd gone really small on storage locally on my phone because it's like I'm doing everything in the cloud. But I think I went too small. What the reason for that is because as the fidelity of screens has improved, and you know, the assets required, the actual space required by an app has increased. On average. So I was actually struggling with storage on my old phone. In addition to that, of course, as playback quality has improved in audio, especially in podcasts, which I listen to a lot of, the average size of a podcast has gone up from, say, 30 megabytes to over 100 for pretty much everything you download now. So again, my space was being eaten up from that. So yeah, I really needed, I've more than like quadrupled the size of storage. And we got a really good deal, haggled with the old phone provider, was like, look, this is what the competition's offering. You're going to bring it down from that, aren't you? Because that's ridiculous. And got them down to a much better price with a nice amount of data. So that worked out quite well. I will say the wife did all of that. Well done to her on that regard. She did a
well
very
done,
good
wife.
job. Well done, indeed. But back to video game related. This is awesome, Rich. Highly recommend. If you can find this book, check it out. You'd love it. I have been reading. I can try and get that in shot. The game console. Yes. Yeah. So this is a historical book that goes back through it's not going to be every single games console because there's been a lot, but it covers a huge amount of game consoles from the very first generation right up to today. And so each page or double page spread explains a bit of the history of the hardware. It will show really nice pictures of all the hardware. It will sometimes do the exploded shots as well, so you can get to see the insides and stuff like that. Various specifications of it and stuff like that. And if you're into your games consoles like I am, it's really the best bit isn't necessarily seeing the ones you know about. It's looking at these crazy things from, say, the 16-bit era that you weren't even aware existed until you just looked at them in this book. Like these crazy experimental consoles from manufacturers that, because of the boom times, jumped in and then just as quickly jumped back out again of the medium, you know, after 2 years of failing sales and things like that. It's an absolutely fascinating book. Quite hard to get hold of in the UK. I couldn't get it from Amazon. Amazon's delivery was like 2 months. And I was like bummed out. I'd given up. And I just happened to see a copy in my local Waterstones. I was like, yep, buying that. It's fabulous. Yeah, it's really, really cool book. It's just called The Game Console. It's by Evan Amos. So by all means, look it up. And yeah, it's all about photos. So there's information in there, but it's mostly a visual suppository. Yeah, it's a great book to have. I've been absolutely pouring through it. I've nearly finished it. Yeah, just fascinating stuff in there. Really interesting. I think you'd love it, Rich. Yeah.
So do you say the more interesting stuff is the obscure stuff? What is in there?
What do you mean, what is in
there? Heard about.
Oh, all right. Let me see if I can find one. Hold on. Putting me on the spot here. I'll test your knowledge.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see again. The Conix multi-system. Do you remember that?
No.
That was a 16-bit
no, I do
thing.
not.
I remember anything that Jeff Minter was involved with is probably interesting to read about because most of it bombed. The Conix multi-system had like 1 million different add-ons and even had a sit-in sort of mobile chair thing.
What? That sounds crazy. How about the RCA Studio 2 or the Coleco Telstar Arcade, the APF MP1000? What a brilliantly named piece of hardware that is. That was brought out. That had, all right. So it started at $169. had a Motorola 6800 at 0.89 megahertz processor, had 64 colors, had a whole kilobyte of RAM though, a whole kilobyte. Had 12 total games were released. 12. It was made by somebody called APF Electronics. They also produce stereos and calculators. So there you go. There you go. The Bally Professional Arcade, the Video Brain, the Intercon VC4000. God, I love these names. God damn, they're bad, aren't they? Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, absolutely fascinating. Loads of great pictures. The guy basically, if you read the introduction, it's interesting. He started off on Wikipedia being frustrated at how poor the photos were for console. So he was just going up there, you know, taking pictures of his own collection, trying to update it and stuff, trying to give them high-res images for reference. And then basically the book got published off the back of a Kickstarter, which he used to fund him going out and buying all of this hardware himself. I don't know if it's all his own photos, but I imagine of his own collection, but I imagine the vast majority is. So, you know, it's a real labor of love. And he's done a fantastic job, this guy, Evan Amos. Credit to him. Really cool book. Really cool book. Put it on your Christmas list, people, if you want to give your loved ones a challenge, because I certainly struggle to find it. But yeah, really.
You can download it. It's available in ebook.
Oh, you can get like a PDF. But I mean, yeah, sure. But it's the kind of coffee table book thing where I wanna have it as like on my shelf behind me or downstairs on the coffee table, so I can just flick through it, you know. And it's nostalgia. It's interesting. Great photos. Really nice. Bless you, Richard, and thank you for muting yourself as you sneezed so violently. That was very professional of you, but I thought I'd draw attention to it anyway and now talk about it for a considerable amount of time, because that's the kind of podcast we are.
I wish I hadn't muted myself now, so then you would have heard the quality. It was really good.
Is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we get into the news?
No, let's do some video game news, please.
Some news. Some now incredibly irrelevant news that happened fucking months ago. Yay! Look, we were originally, in the best podcast ever recorded, talked about in-depth XO18. I don't think that's so relevant now, so let's just mention that Xbox has acquired 2 new studios in the form of Obsidian and inXile. Both of them known for their incredible RPG outputs from over the years, especially Obsidian for Fallout New Vegas and for Knights of the Old Republic 2, both of which were fantastic games that were rushed to release and therefore came out buggy and ended up kind of getting finished by their own fan bases. But hey, they're still really good games. And then inXile, best known for Bard's Tale, I think, that entire series of fantasy RPGs. But yeah, that's some cool acquisitions. I mean, I'm excited to see. The rumor is, and I don't actually, it's not a rumor. I think they've confirmed Obsidian is going to announce at the VGAs next week what their new project is, which looks like it's going to be completely fresh IP. Whether or not that's going to be the first new Xbox exclusive announced, don't know. I mean, because they've said they're going to be, you know, possibly still multi-platform, at least on some of the games they're currently working on. So who knows how that's going to work. But do you think, what do you think, Rich? Do you think we're going to get our first next generation Xbox exclusive game announced?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. It's really hard to call because they've muddied the waters with this latest generation of console refreshes with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. I don't know. It kind of makes you think, how much of a big deal are they going to make of the next iteration? Is it going to be a clean break, or
it's a good question.
A small step up?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
I think
we're going to be talking about next generation releases in the same way that we have in the past.
I don't know.
Certainly, I'd expect them to have a crossover with the current gen, you know, so they will still work on Xbox One.
So you're talking about games being forward compatible. I think that's possible. However, I think the marketing terminology will be about a next generation. It's so important for the Microsoft that they bring out their next Xbox and fucking smash it out of flipping park, mate. Because they don't want to be in second place. Look, it's not a bad second place. They've still shifted a ton of units, but they want to be in first place. They want to be leading the charge. They don't want to be following. It's just in the nature of them, you know, that's the Xbox mentality. I think they have to talk about it in the terms of next generation. I really do, because that's what will sell the units more than anything else. You can't keep the iterative phone model system doesn't excite people. Look, I was just talking about my new phone. Was I excited about it? Not really. I mean, it's a nice to have the upgrade, but it wasn't something I was clamoring for, you know, and had pre-ordered and I was excited for release day. You know, it just happened because my contract was up. So I think they have to push. They have to push. I don't, however, think.
I can't really say new iPhones are a fringe interest. They do get hype, and people.
Yes, but it isn't what it was. It isn't the same hype that it used to be 5 years ago, is it? No. It's calmed down a lot.
I think what you're saying is right, but it's just contextual within whatever time period you're talking about. At launch, yeah, it will be geared towards people like you and me that get excited about new releases, and it will be all hands to the pump to say, like, this is a new console, you need to buy it, because we're the early adopters, aren't we?
Yeah, we're the idiots that buy the early hardware that then breaks. Yep.
But that doesn't go over particularly with the general public, who don't feel the need to upgrade from DVD to Blu-ray, let alone 4K, you know?
Yeah, it's weird how DVD still exists. That kind of blows my mind every time I see them in the shops. It's just like, how is this still a format at this point? But still, yeah, you're right. It keeps going, doesn't it? But to get back to that original question I posed, is Obsidian's thing going to be an exclusive reveal for the next gen? Probably not. I think it's more. It could well be exclusive, but I think it's more likely that they'll be talking it in terms of current generation than next generation. It's just too soon. They haven't announced hardware yet. We'll talk about that shortly because we got some hardware stuff to talk about in regards to Xbox. But yes, anything you wanted to bring up about inXile? Not as well known as Obsidian. They do have the history. They have released a lot of games, and they are known for the single player narrative RPG. Maybe not on the same level as Obsidian, but I still think it's an interesting acquisition, especially if it gives us a bit more depth in that first party portfolio. So yeah, I'm cool with that.
I don't really know of them, so to me, it's more about making up the numbers. The more studios they have, the more games that they'll have coming out.
Well, which is, you know, the more games that they can try and develop and fail and cancel, and it doesn't completely, destroy their lineup. Because it's like everybody keeps, everybody keeps bringing up that flipping Platinum game. What was it?
Dragon Scalebound.
Scalebound. It still gets brought up all the time on the internet. Oh, Scalebound! I was really looking forward to Scalebound. It's like, look, it happens. Games don't reach the milestones. They don't get to where they need to be. They have to get cancelled. That's creative entertainment for you. It doesn't. Not everything can get released. But people.
Right, but when there's nothing else to take its place, that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah, because that's what people fixate on. The other thing, quickly mentioning from XO18, is we have a release date for Crackdown 3, which is February the 15th. I think they'll hit that. I think they'll be chucking that out of the door regardless on February 15th. So at this point, it looks like they've scaled back a lot of what was promised with the destructible environments to just quite limited multiplayer modes now. Once again, this is like Scalebound. This is a case of they promised big, they shot for the moon, they've not been able to achieve it. But the problem with the Crackdown is that it's first party and they can't really not release it. So and they're aware that they don't have a big lineup right now on this generation. So this game has to come out. I suspect if they thought they could get away with cancelling it, they might have done it maybe even 18 months ago. That game is now going to limp out past the finish line and probably be a 7 out of 10, a 3 out of 5, an underwhelming experience.
I really like Crackdown, but I'm really not expecting very much from Crackdown 3. I think this is another consequence of their poor lineup over the past couple of years, that they probably wouldn't have announced it so early. At the point that they did announce it, I'm sure they didn't have very much to show for it. But what else were they going to talk about?
Well, it's another. The other thing that's a counter to their weak lineup is every first party game will be included in Game Pass. I can tell you right now that wouldn't have happened if their lineup was twice as big as it is. It's a case of they're using the Game Pass incentive to mitigate the problems with what they have. And I think the fact that Crackdown's included day one on Game Pass means a bunch of people will be playing it, a bunch of people that would not be buying it. Because it's just the way that's gone. However, you still get your Forza's Horizon, which is a fucking phenomenal game as part of Game Pass. So you can't argue with that as an initiative. Game Pass is awesome, I won't go through all the games like we did last time from XO18, but a bunch of stuff is coming to Game Pass, like a whole bunch of stuff, including
it's weird how
Hellblade and stuff. So.
Yeah, Hellblade, that service has gone from, you know, you and I talking about how it wasn't really for us because we buy loads of games anyway, and how much is there going to be on there for us to really get into. To me, having a subscription through to 2020, I'm all over Game Pass now. It's such a good service.
Absolutely, I'm not quite as locked into it as you are, but I kind of get these 3-month subscriptions, which I seem to always time for a bit of sale being on for them.
Yeah.
So I'm up through like April right now next year, but I'll just wait until I can get another 3 months really cheap because they seem to push that all the time. So probably around Christmas again, something will come up, but. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next news story. A bit of a sad story. This one, man. I was bummed about this. Strategy guide maker Prima Games shutting. After 28 years, they're going to be fully closed down by January 2019. And I'm sure you've got at least a couple of guides of theirs. Yeah, you must do.
I've got a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a shelf full behind me. Literally, like I'm just going to bring up one. I've got my Halo Wars here, official Prima strategy guide from back in the day, and I didn't always buy them to cheat my way through, but it was kind of like back then there were less artifacts you could buy that would be tied into the games you loved. So it was kind of like you might want to just pick up that guide to have another thing to look at, when you weren't able to play the game, or maybe to optimize a playthrough later to get all the achievements or unlock all the content or something like that. So I've got all the Mass Effect ones, I've got all the Fallout ones, I've got all the big RPG ones, often special editions of them, often ones I barely ever read, but things that I just like to have to show my support, to show my love of that franchise. And in recent years they tried to diversify a bit more into art books and stuff like that, as well as just guides. But yeah, I'm bummed about that. Really, really bummed out. It's a shame to see another physical media element of video games that is going the way of the dodo.
Yeah, it is a shame. I can't say I've helped their situation because I've not bought one of their books for a long time. I think since I've gone completely digital, I've not bought any guidebooks either. And even before then, there was few that I would buy because it always felt a bit cheaty to buy guidebooks. So I'd only get it for special cases. Like you say, maybe if it was more of an artifact for a game world that I particularly appreciated, wanted to see some of the art in print form. It's nice to have that sort of thing, isn't it, as an accompaniment?
Absolutely. That was the thing for me, definitely. I mean, in recent years, they did things like bundle digital codes in with them as well, which I thought was really cool. And I actually ended up using things like that quite a bit for The Witcher 3, for example, so I could get as much of the collectibles and find the more difficult to find things and stuff like that. Yeah. By the way, hello to those watching live. Hello, Luke. As you have joined us there, I will try to answer your questions as well. I've only just opened up the chat window. Terrible hosting, I know. I'm really sorry about that, but I often forget. To look at the chat, but I'll answer your question shortly. Yeah, so no more Prima Games. It's the end of that. End of an era. End of an era. Let's move on to the next story. This is the big one from the last month. Can you believe this? I can't really comprehend an E3 without Sony, without PlayStation being there, and yet that's what we're going to get in 2019. And this is after many of the big boys have already left. Nintendo doesn't really do an E3 conference anymore. Konami doesn't make games anymore. We've lost EA from the proper show. They do their own breakout thing now. Activision barely shows up. So really, the only person at E3 2019, the only big boy is going to be Xbox. So I mean, how do you feel about losing Sony like that?
It's a big blow to E3 overall. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do instead. You can understand that they might want to take some time off if they don't want to show very much this year, because they've had bad press for phoning it in the past couple of years and just sort of showing the same games and really giving the same messages. And it doesn't go down well, and it just gives them negative press more than anything. So yeah, if they want to dip out, fine, but it does make me worry for the future of E3 because it is a big event in the year. And
it's something the hardcore gamers like us rally around. It's like our Christmas. It's like it sets us up for what's coming in the rest of the year. It makes us hyped for the big console announcements and hardware announcements that are on the horizon. And you know, I guess now where we're at with the internet and with PR and stuff like that, they feel maybe the best thing to do is get out of these situations so that they can spread the message out a bit and it doesn't all get lost in a single week of clamoring noise.
That is one of the best things about E3, though, isn't it? That it's all
awesome
together.
I love it.
It's the one point in the year where they all sort of cross over and people talk about who won. Like it's a direct relationship between these console manufacturers and game publishers.
We do that every year.
Space. Yeah,
we do that every year. We do a suite of podcasts and videos, and then we talk about, you know, wrap up who won the show. Well, there'll be no talking of who won this year because the only one there is Xbox. So we know who's won. And I mean, what this means to me, I'd be willing to put 20 quid down that we get hardware announcements from Xbox in this E3.
Hardware in terms of next gen, or
well, I'm being a bit cagey in that.
Yeah.
Intentionally, sir. We've sort of tied into this, and actually news that broke on the same day as this was that there is a strong rumor coming from good sources that Microsoft are going to be announcing a kind of suite of new hardware for next year, including a diskless Xbox One to bring down the costs, and also a revision of the Xbox One S as well with a disc, so to change up the family of consoles. Now, what that makes me think of is when they released the redesigns of the 360 to make it look and sit more comfortably next to their Xbox One. So when I hear redesign at this point in a cycle, I think, they're trying to bring the style of the family together. I think we'll get, I could see a presentation, right, where they go big on their studio, more studio announcements. We get exclusive game announcements. We then get the diskless Xbox One announcement. I don't think they'd announce a redesigned One S at this show, but then they close the show on 2020, fall 2020, Xbox 2, for sake of a better name. You know, so it's all, and then it's like, here's your games, your studios, your this year's hardware, your next year's hardware. You know, they won't necessarily show, you know, the Xbox 2. They won't necessarily go into details, but you get a hype video, you get an acknowledgement that it's coming, you get a release window. That's kind of what I could see them doing. We've seen the formula before, haven't we?
Yeah. I'm just really interested how they pitch it when it comes along, because the message when the Xbox One X came out was so strong, so much of it. Yeah, it was so much of a mantra that they were not going to leave anyone behind. Remember, they said that over and over. No one gets left behind. Everyone that can play on Xbox One X will get the best version, but if you're playing on an old one, you'll still be able to play the same games.
So what you're talking about when they were talking about when there was the window of about a year when we had cross-platform releases, because they didn't announce back compat until a couple of years down the line. I'm assuming that's what you mean.
They did say Xbox One X would be significantly better than the X.
I'm sorry. You're talking about the X. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the announcement of the original Xbox One. My bad.
No. Sorry. But yeah, when the X came out, they were pushing it as a next gen experience. It was going to be significantly better than what you already had.
Yes.
But their mantra was no one gets left behind, and that's remained true. There aren't any Xbox One X exclusive games, but if you can get an X enhanced game, you can really tell a lot of the time.
So you still think that
I wonder if they're going to still push that sort of message, and how they're going to balance that, how they're going to walk that tightrope of making sure that they preserve the integrity of the marketplace that they've built up, where you can buy any game from almost any of their systems and play it on anything, to then bringing in a next gen system that they want to present as something new, but also isn't isolated from the rest of the family. Do you know what I mean?
It's super difficult because a large portion of the people that spent all that money on the X clamoring for exclusives, clamoring for things that only work on the X. It's like, well, what? Because they want something to show for your purchase, don't you? You want something to brag about, to evangelize, you know, to really promote as a reason for picking up that hardware. I feel like there has to be a line. I really do. I mean, it's so difficult. Otherwise, how do you announce new hardware without everybody just going, why would I bother? There has to be something about it that you can only get from it. You know, all right, so
I don't think that has to be taking experiences away from older platforms, though. I mean, I don't feel that's undermined my enjoyment of the X.
No, not for us, because we're hardcore and we can appreciate, you know, the 4K and we can appreciate the texture enhancements and things like that. But there has to be something. I think if you're going to announce a new generation, there has to be something that sets it apart. So is it AR VR? Is this the platform you have to have the new multimedia experience? You know, is this where Microsoft comes out and does that? Do people care? I mean, I'm not. Can you imagine the Xbox 2 now with AR VR headset included, has to be purchased with the headset? Oh, it was like with the Kinect. Oh yeah, that went well. That was a good plan. So yeah, I would suspect Phil wouldn't make that mistake again. But they've got to do something, otherwise what gets you excited about it? What makes you want to go and pre-order it? If it's just a bit more powerful, you know, every game is 60 frames, right? Every game can play 60 frames and will be 4K native, right? Is that all you can say? If that's all you can say, it's not thrilling, is it?
No, it's got to be based on the experiences.
Because at this point, we know it's a PC in a box, right? All the next generation consoles are PCs in boxes, right? Yeah. That's what they're all going to be. That's what the PS5 will be. It's what the Xbox 2 will be. So you know, all that is more power. So if that's all that is, then you the only thing you can do to delineate it is say there are games that's only going to run on this. So I don't envy them. I don't envy them. I suspect you're correct. I suspect you're correct, and it's iterative and it's forward compatible. However, the naming
convention might not be. They might name it as if it's something entirely new, but I think for the integrity of the marketplace they've built up, they're all about their marketplace and not the devices that you play games on or use their services on.
But they've done that because they've lost. They've done that because they lost this generation. They've done that, but you know, that's why Game Pass exists. That's why they've focused on the experience rather than the platform. I don't think that means they don't want the platform success. I still think they want that, and they would want that in the next generation. I can't imagine Phil can convince the board that it's not worth fighting. I really
can't.
They've
done it because they've lost. I think it's a coherent message across all of their markets. So they're doing it. Well, obviously they've lost in mobile,
but it wasn't planned. It wasn't the Don Matrick plan to do that pivot.
But it is the Satya Nadella plan,
maybe
across Microsoft's entire vision that they're about services and not products.
But the question is, would that have happened?
Their mobile strategy, that's true of their Windows strategy, it's true of their gaming strategy. Everything is the same.
I'm curious, man. It's going to be really interesting E3. Really, really interesting E3. Who knows? It's okay. So we talked about that. We talked about the potential hardware revisions we're going to see. I think more than a hardware revision, I'd really like a dashboard improvement. Would be nice. It's just the speed. I can't believe, right? The weirdest thing, Rich, that my Xbox One X's dash actually seems to perform worse than my S. Because they've done nothing to optimize it for the better hardware. So it's just bizarre to me.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, when I first got my X, it seemed a lot quicker, but now not so much.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just I don't know. Maybe I need to just delete a load of stuff. Start again.
I don't know if it's that, man. I really don't. But no, I think, you know, they could do is like, I still prefer the idea of the interface to the XMB, but man, the responsiveness of the XMB on PS4 is something else. So it would be nice if we get somewhere close to that. But let's move on. This is some good news, sort of. Work has resumed on the final season of The Walking Dead.
That is really good news. Why'd you say sort of?
Because it's not like they rehired all the people that lost their jobs who were working on it at Telltale. They got like a few people back, so it's not the best news. It's like there's not been any talk of is there going to be compensation improvements for those guys? Are they going to get, you know, any kind of money from this deal? Are they going to get any money from the sales? They're being very cagey about all of that.
I would imagine not.
Well, so in that case, should you support that? Should you buy the rest of this season?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, they're not. They were never going to be able to re-employ everybody. Firstly, because a lot of them will have moved on to other jobs by now. The fact that they are finishing it for the people that have already bought it, that's great for consumers, great for fans of the series that want to see an end to it. But really, the real issue with this that we had when we first talked about the story was that there were going to be a lot of people that have worked on the series that were out of pocket, been treated very poorly without any notice of the studio closure. Some of those will be able to find work in other places, but for those that have been able to go back to The Walking Dead and finish it off, that's great for them. And I don't want to put words in their mouth. Maybe they are doing it begrudgingly. Maybe they really love the idea of finishing off what they started. Don't know. But it seems to me that it's the most positive thing that could have happened from the studio closure.
From that train wreck. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. I mean, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what comes out. You know, maybe there'll be more details about remuneration and compensation and things to that effect as we get closer. So let's move on. Let's move on to the kind of actually, before we get onto that, let's quickly touch on this story. I'll change the order a little bit. Rebellion, makers of the 2000 AD comics, of various video games, of movies and stuff like that. So they've done, you know, the Judge Dredd, they do Rogue Trooper. They're opening up a brand new film studio just outside of Oxford, which isn't directly related to games, but it's worth mentioning because Rebellion is this kind of giant multimedia company now that has done very well for itself. They obviously made Strange Brigade as well, and they're involved with the Sniper Elite series, I believe. But they have done a good job in diversifying. They obviously put out a lot of comics. They're the 2000 AD guys, but yeah, they make movies, and they've got Duncan Jones making the Rogue Trooper movie in this new facility, which supposedly is going to be up and running in the start of 2019 because a lot of it's already sort of suitable for making films. It was an old paper factory. Putting money into the local economy, you know, good filmmaking is going really well right now in the UK. We're actually doing, you know, lots of stuff is getting created over here. It's really boom time for that.
Until March.
Sorry?
Until March.
what do you mean?
Well, Brexit's not supposed to be very good for film economy.
Brexit's not probably going to be good for anything. So, no. I mean, let's just try and look on the positives while we have them, Richard. God damn. Harsh my buzz. I mean, come on. Are you not excited about a Rogue Trooper movie made by that guy who made the World of Warcraft movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more
he also made Moon.
New Judge Dredd stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
He also made Moon, which you can't rewatch now because it stars Kevin Spacey. And
Kevin Spacey? Awkward. I don't remember him in that.
He's the computer voice.
Oh yeah, of course he is.
Yeah. So you never rewatched that movie. But yeah, I mean, is this the Judge Dredd TV show that's potentially involving Carl Urban as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So that's cool.
I don't know how likely that is. I've heard people talk about it, but I heard that as more of a dream scenario than something that's actually happening. Is it real?
I think it's more like he would love to do it, but whether or not he can actually make it happen, who knows? You know, it's scheduling, it's money, it's all that boring shit to do with that kind of thing. So yeah, who knows? But you know, I think it's always cool to see these sort of big facilities getting opened up in the UK, and that's not far from where I live. So I might pop down, see if I can meet Carl. That'd be cool. But let's move on from that little story. Let's talk about Fallout 76. And I'll use this.
The Fallout from Fallout.
Yeah, and I'll use this excuse to talk about the game as well. I think we'll do that now. But should I talk about the game first before I talk about the news stories?
Yeah.
Hands up.
Let's talk about the awful shit about it first.
All right, let's talk about Badgate.
Yeah.
Let's start with Badgate. So there was a special edition of Fallout 76 that was sold to many people who hadn't played the game yet, because it wouldn't have sold to them now. who you got a bag. You got this canvas bag which had your power armor helmet in it and the game and all this, and it looked great and it was high quality. And then what they actually received was not a canvas bag; it was a cheap, shitty nylon bag. And then there was a lot of confusion as to why some customer reps, sales reps were saying it was a cost issue. Some said it was a supply issue. And basically PR had to get on board after this sort of started becoming a big thing on Reddit and actually give an official statement. And it's just been a big, confusing, negative mess, basically. Reddit is now organizing, demanding refunds, demanding all kinds of money back. I mean, this has been a fucking train wreck of a release so far for Bethesda. I mean, they even said at the time it came out, that you know, players are going to have to bear with them and help them make the Fallout into the game, you know, it should be. After you've spent $60 on it, after you've dealt with microtransactions, that's what they're saying to players. This is not an early access game. If your game isn't ready to come out, if you need the players to help you make the game, don't put it out. What are you fucking doing? But yeah, the bad gate's just on top of all of that. And it's just like, it's just a really bad look. I mean, is canvas that hard to get hold of? I mean, is it that expensive? I can't imagine it is. This is not a cheap collector's edition. For Christ's sake, just give them the bag, man. And so compensation, though, oh, it's very generous. Very generous compensation. You get 500 atoms if you send proof of your purchase to Bethesda, which equates to about £4 of in-game currency, which can basically buy you nothing in the in-game store. It's a tiny amount. You can't. It's quite funny actually. There's like a costume in the game that has the bag. Like you can't even afford to buy that with 500 atoms, which is pretty fucking guys. What are you doing? It's just a mind-blowing train wreck this. And on top of that, we just had a story that came out like yesterday, day before, about a group of players that were harassed horribly by a bunch of homophobic teenagers in America and chased around the world and picked on and with slurs, because there's a proximity chat in Fallout. So if you stood near a player, you kind of have to hear what they're saying, which makes sense in the game, but is also, well, troubling for these reasons. And then these players had a real hard problem just being able to report this harassment. There's no function to do it in game. They had to try and take it out using the Xbox Live service itself, which didn't work. And then they were tweeting at Bethesda. And then there's a reporting system on the Bethesda website, which kind of didn't work and broke for them. So they went through a huge rigmarole. And finally, these players got like a 4-day ban. And then Bethesda looked even more closely at it and gave them permabans. But I don't know if you have the story up, Richard. I think it might be amusing if you do, to quote what said perpetrator of heinous acts said in his defense, because it's pretty hilarious. At least he's honest. Have you got it there, Rich? Just getting it up now. I'm gone.
What he said. The guy was at least honest, wasn't he? With what a gross person.
Nathan the Hick.
Nathan the Hick. He's a senior in high school. And his account of what had happened was, my version of the incident is more or less the same as the public has taken it. The only difference has been the fact that I don't hate gay people. It was just a late night of having fun. And after the first encounter, we thought it would be funny to offend them somehow.
By the way, they're streaming this. This is entertainment on the internet for people, FYI.
Yeah. So you can call that evil, but I think it's just playful immaturity. I don't regret the incident. I won't apologize. I don't plan on doing anything like this again in the future, but no, I didn't plan it. I just found these people and decided to do it. So
I mean, he's not sorry. He's not sorry. And he might do it again. Which is what he says. I love it. He's honest. He's like, yeah, I'm a dick. I'm probably going to be a dick again. I can't help myself because I'm an immature piece of shit. Nathan the Hick, you are an immature piece. And now you are permabanned until you fucking get another account anyway. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, you've got to respect the honesty, yeah? I mean, but I think that's the story for me is how difficult it was for them to be reported.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a Fallout issue, is it? That there are homophobes playing video games. Big news. But yeah, there needs to be some way of dealing with it.
This is a small scale MMO for all intents and purposes. The server holds 24 people, so you can have that many people on the map at the same time. But there should be in-game systems that help you deal with this. You shouldn't have to use the ineffective at times Xbox system or PlayStation system to block these people, because that's all it does. And it's very difficult to sometimes report people in that manner. So yeah, for an MMO type experience, there needs to be an in-game system. I'm glad Bethesda took the nuclear option, as it were, and banned these people. Obviously, this is what they deserved. However, yeah, it's just one of a million problems with this game. Right, a million problems. It's been a little while since I played it now, actually, which has been about 3 weeks, because I'd be honest with you, I've not gone back since my review, because why on earth would I? It's weird. It's a Fallout game without, first of all, the main thing you kind of notice is a Fallout game without much in the way of story. The fact that
that's kind of an issue.
Yeah, it's kind of an issue in an RPG. There are no human NPCs or quest givers. Every quest you get, for the most part, is from the environment. So you'll find a dead body, which will have an audio log. You play the audio log and blah, 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 blah. Tells you to go somewhere, kill something, or go somewhere, pick something up, or go somewhere and do something. It's just so tedious. There's no characters to it. So all that promotional shit we got from Todd at E3 about it being just like any other Fallout single-player RPG, it's not that. It really isn't. If you're not playing with other people, it's an incredibly hollow experience that just doesn't hold your interest. Beyond that, it's like, it's so weird that they say this. And so I'll give you an example of a gameplay moment that happened to me. I pick up an audio log and it's long. It's playing away as I'm walking around. It's weirdly quiet. Like, I had to mess a lot with the audio settings in the game to actually boost up that and put the subtitles on just so I could follow what was being said. It's almost like Bethesda are aware you don't give a shit about the story when you're playing this game. Like, it's really weird that. But the worst thing is, I'm walking along. I'm halfway through this audio log, and I come up to a Protectron and it goes, halt, person. And that stops the audio log. And then you have to start it all the way from the beginning again.
Brilliant.
And it's just like, you are actively trying to make me ignore the story because there's nothing in it. You are aware that you have created a very pretty environment. It's a really nice expanse of wasteland, and there's forests, there's lots of variety, there are towns. You're out of the vault much earlier in the timeline, so it's their excuse for there not being NPCs is that you will become, as it were, in the history of Fallout, you will become what becomes the sort of populated wasteland. So at the time you come out, there isn't any survivors, there aren't any rebuilt civilization, because you're the first out of the vault. Right. But it's just an excuse for an empty environment, So the only things you deal with are monsters and creatures, ghouls and ghoul-like creatures, and then other players, which you can or cannot interact with depending on how you want to do it. Obviously, the base building is here, but while there's more depth to it, there's more you can do with the base building. There's almost like less reason to do it in a weird way. It just feels unnecessary, like it did in Fallout 4, but it's helpful because you can build like your crafting benches that you can then have at your little camp. However, you find them all over the place. They're in like a lot of the areas you go to and stuff. So you can, a few minutes walk, you're bound to find the bench you need. Of course, there are 6 different type of bench: armor, weapon, gadget, chemical, biological, craft your soup, your cooking, your building. It's just like, it's so unnecessarily obfuscated. Everything is just, it just feels poorly designed, poorly thought out. I like the look of the game. They're still using this engine that I feel like they've been using since Fallout 3, and it's starting to really show its age when it comes to character models and monster design. And then it's full of bugs, just like server crashes where you get kicked out to the menu and you have to come back in, falling through the world, clipping through scenery. I remember fighting a dude, and I thought I was fighting one dude, and then 3 dudes came through the wall and fucked me up. And I was just like, what? Like, moments where you'll clear a room and then you'll be walking to leave the room, and literally the enemies will spawn in front of you. Like, they're on a timer and they just reappear. Like, it's so badly thought out. It's unreal, man. It's just like, this wasn't tested. You threw this together in 5 minutes and chucked it out the door. I can see where this game could end up, there's potential here for this game to be awesome. I mean, it's kind of a nice balance of survival light elements to it, where a non-survival gamer like myself can still enjoy it. You've got to manage your food, you know, your health, your hunger, sorry, and your thirst. You got to manage your rads, but it's all quite easy as long as you're picking up stuff as you walk around. The weird thing is you'll walk into a town, right? And 2/3 of the buildings are boarded up and you can't go in them. And it's just like, what the fuck's the point then? This is all just set dressing. Then you'll go into a room and there'll be 30 crates. However, you can only open 2 of them. And it's just like, I don't understand. If the whole point is that I'm going around looting stuff, or then you'll open a crate and it'll be empty. And you'll open another crate and it'll be empty. And you're just like, well, what's the point of all this set dressing if none of it has a purpose? And it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't have the thought that goes into it. Like, do you remember, you know, play PUBG, right? You go, if you saw a building, you could go into it, right? And if you saw weapons on the floor, you could pick them up. You could use them. It's like that game understands how that should work. Like, everything had a sort of purpose. Whereas in Fallout, they've decided they've got this middle ground where it's like half the thing, not even half. So a few of the things are useful, but most of them aren't. So you're just walking around kind of aimlessly, hoping to find the ones that are. It's frustrating, mate. But yeah, the bugs will get fixed. I suspect, you know, they'll support the game. Yeah,
I gave up on Fallout after Fallout 3 because that game never got fixed. That was an absolute mess. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it destroyed itself with bugs. So I didn't really play Fallout 4. Not had any interest in Fallout 76 because I just assumed that it would be a disaster. Technically, I mean, it sounds like design-wise, it's crap as well.
I mean, I kind of knew it wasn't for me from the announcement, right? I'm not interested in multiplayer survival games. I'm just not. But I was willing to give it a go, you know, for you know, if it had been well made, if it worked as a Fallout game. It just doesn't, and it isn't, you know. Falling through the floor and glitching through walls, and there are it's just a lot of bugs. Even for a Fallout game, it seems broken. I don't just want to get on the hate train. It's a shame that it's like this. It just needed more time. I'm not sure. And I understand Todd was like, do you remember at the conference, and every time says it's experimental, it's new for us, we're trying it out, you know, lots of caveats. It almost felt like he didn't have faith in the project even then. He knew it was going to be a mess. And what I like the way they were talking about had the most people working on it ever. You know, they got the ZeniMax people, they've got all these people. It actually feels like they've got like a small B team working on this, and everybody else is doing Starfield. Because there's like a massive amount of asset reuse going on. There are these giant flying lizard creatures. I can't remember what they're called, that are like the boss level creatures that are flying around. You'll occasionally see them in the environment and you can fight them. They're all like level 50s. Yeah. However, they are basically reusing the assets of the dragons from Skyrim. They look the same, they behave the same, they fly around in the same way, they do the similar attacks when they land. You know, they've changed the look of them a little bit cosmetically. But you can tell immediately that that's just a dragon from Skyrim, and you're just like, what? Like, did any work go into this game? Like, I just don't get it. It's so weird. But you know, it's quite pretty. Like, at times you'll be looking through the forest and the god rays will come down, and then, you know, it will split through the trees, and you'll be like, oh, that looks nice in HDR and 4K and all of that. That looks pretty good. The biggest problem I had was the frame rate problems. I haven't even mentioned the frame rate issues. So you're right. So VATS has been gutted, because the whole point of VATS was you could pause the game or slow time down to improve your targeting. Well, this is a multiplayer game, so you can't do that. That wouldn't work, would it? So VATS doesn't pause anything. So all it does is give you a hit percentage on a head as an enemy is running straight at you, because that's all the enemies do in this game. They either run straight at you to hit you with something, or they run close to you and then shoot you. It's very, very... The AI is super basic. But then, so it does nothing. So the VATS isn't there. So you're using iron sight targeting on your gun. But the problem is the servers are so unstable that you're getting frame rate dips down to single digits on a semi-regular basis. So you try aiming something with an iron sight accurately when being swarmed by 14 mole rats all at once. You know, I'm just, you know, I've got a flipping shotgun equipped and I can't hit anything. And it's just because it's just impossible at times because the servers are so shit. And I'm sure that will get improved and they'll sort that out, I'm hoping. But it's just laughable. It's just like comedy. Like I'm just like this buffoon, like fumbling my way around this world, like, whoa, can't hear anything, whoa, frame rate. It's nah, man. It's so bad. Give it like wait for it to be 20 quid in 6 months' time. Maybe look at it then if you're at all interested. Otherwise, don't go near this game. Just don't. You know, it's bummer. Serious bummer.
I hate to be proven right with stuff like this because Fallout should be one of the top tier franchises going. It's got so much going for it, and then they just squander it like that.
It makes me really, 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 really worried for Starfield. Because if they're gonna, as they've said, they're gonna keep using this engine. I think it's likely that they're gonna want to put a multiplayer element into Starfield. It's gonna have, you know, this has got microtransactions up the wazoo, even though it's a fucking $60, 50 quid game. It's mostly cosmetics, but you can, you know, buy, you know, materials, which is basically cheats if you want. Yeah, I'm worried for Starfield. I was really excited about Starfield, and now I'm genuinely concerned because they need to do a lot of work on that engine to make it work, especially if it's a next generation game. They need a new engine. They need to, I don't know, ZeniMax. Well, they have the Doom guys, don't they? They have it. Get them to sort you out with a better engine. Do something, because what you've got is trash, and it's showing its age like a lot. Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm gonna come back to Fallout. I'm gonna give it some time. I'm gonna let the patches come out. Maybe about 6 months, maybe the summer next year, and I'll go back and I'll give it another go. Because it has potential. That's all I can say. That's the only positive thing I can say about it. Really, you can see how it could be a good game. It just isn't right now.
I don't think it's going to be for me. Fingers crossed for Rage 2, eh? That'll be my
game. It and Avalanche I have more faith in. Like, I think that could be really good. So that's Fallout 76. Check out my full review on the site and on the YouTube channel. Richard, why don't you talk about something? I could do with a little break.
Review-wise, I haven't done a lot recently. Let's talk about Achtung Cthulhu Tactics, which I am playing on Xbox. Regular visitors to the show may have already seen our review on the PC. So our man Chris has done a PC review, which was really well researched. I'm not going to pretend that I've got anywhere near the insight that he's had, because he's actually played the original board game that it's based on. I have, however, played Space Hulk Tactics recently. So my perspective is more in comparison to that, and particularly how Space Hulk made the most of the new medium that it's brought the game into. So it didn't feel like a board game. It felt like a proper video game, just translating all the rules of Space Hulk into a more interactive, dynamic, animated environment. Achtung Cthulhu Tactics doesn't really do that. It still feels very much like a board game. It looks like a board game. All of the backgrounds look as if they've been built as a diorama in Games Workshop's storefront. You know, it all feels very papier-mâché. Lots of greys and browns. There's not very much of interest in the environments. It all feels like it's just been plonked onto a table, right? The characters themselves, you start with a squad of 4 characters. You're stuck with them for the whole game. They don't change. And then, I suppose, superficially distinct from each other in that they've got different names and different character models. But in terms of behaviors, there isn't a massive impact between the different moves that they have. They don't have much of a different effect on the enemies or the strategy that you use. The idea of the game is that it's called Cthulhu Tactics. It does have elements of Lovecraftian literature in here, but not as much as you would think, given the name. You think if you're going to slap that name on it, it would be tentacles coming out every orifice, right? But it's not anything like that. It's much more, at least in the first few missions, it's much more interested in sort of a vanilla take on the Nazis during World War II. But this is an alternate timeline where they've got access to sort of arcane abilities, and you'll start to see Shoggoths and different types of Nazis turn up with monstrous appendages. So it starts to become a bit more interesting, but never to the point that it feels like it's a horror game. It doesn't have that sense of foreboding and paranoia and you know, the sort of atmosphere that a proper Cthulhu game gives you is not that. It's very much a tabletop experience. There's pieces on a board. Some of them look a bit tentacly. You shoot them, and then you move on to another field, another tree stump, another rock, over which you'll find some more Nazis with bits growing off them. And that's kind of it. There's elements in the background that you can interact with, and it's really odd because it's there's very little visual flair in this for you to look at anything and think, I want to know more about that part of the background. I'm going to go over there. It'll just be a little icon on the ground to say, you can look at this if you want. So you'll walk over to it, press A to select it, then press right trigger to say you want to interact with it, and then press A again to understand what the interaction is. It's a very weird system. And then at the end of those 3 button presses, you'll get a line of text that says, this forest has interesting history.
It's where all the Nazi appendages come from.
Yeah, it's just really weird. There is no substance to this whatsoever. And giving it the name Cthulhu, it works fine as a sort of strategy shooter, a sort of small squad strategy game. It's okay. You move your people around, you put them behind a rock. That gives you more cover, more likelihood that you won't get shot and you can shoot someone else. Fine. It works okay in that regard.
It's so strange to me that you'd pull all the interesting mythos out of a game all about interesting mythos.
That's it. I don't understand why they've called it Cthulhu when they've not put any real effort into building that world.
Bummer.
Don't get it. So I can't really recommend it, especially because it wastes that franchise, but also because it doesn't really feel like a video game to me. And to me, that is the point of stuff like this. Space Hulk did it really well. It got me immersed in the world, and it did a really good job of hiding the systems and rules behind all the visual flair. This doesn't. It just puts it all up front and center. There's loads of UI elements that you can't get out of, and when they're plonked in front of a drab world anyway, it just detracts even further from it. So I couldn't really get involved with this.
Okay. We've got some words coming later on today or something.
Yeah, half done. I'll get those over to you later today.
So, Battlefield 5, V5, Battlefield V5, whatever you want to call it. Would you like my thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, I'm interested in Battlefield 5. I do want it if I could ever afford another game again in my life. But
guess what?
Tell me about it.
Guess what?
Go on.
It's a Battlefield game.
Is it?
Yep. I mean, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I like it. I you know, it's really difficult to find things to keep talking about. I started my review actually saying, do you know what? They should take a year off because there's too much of this. I think they might take next year off. Right, I really do, because they've got a big plan for content support going forward. That's all going to be free, and it's not, you know, season pass locked like Call of Duty does. And they've got the battle royale mode coming early next year and stuff like that. They should definitely take a year off because the whole genre is oversaturated right now. This is a perfectly good example of it. However, it's a lot like Battlefield 1. Like, there aren't really any new modes. They've expanded upon the operations mode and turned it into grand operations, which equates to single multiplayer matches taking upwards of an hour. Like, one game, you'll be in for an hour or more, because it's multiple maps, it's over multiple in-game days, and it certainly feels epic. It really feels huge, and the maps are brilliant. The way they evolve, the destruction is the best it's ever been. Literally, there are maps which have these villages or towns at the start, and then by the end, they are completely gone. Like, what will be 100% leveled from artillery, from tanks, from you name it. They're just wiped out. one of the things that I thought was weird that they seem to have removed are the juggernauts. Do you remember in Battlefield 1 with you'd have the big ship and you'd have the train and the airship and all of that stuff? That's not in this. Which I thought was a bit strange, because I really liked that idea that you'd have something that would go to the side that was getting completely annihilated, and they'd be able to come in with some support to try and even the battlefield. And it would work really well in the grand operations maps and game mode, but yeah, they've got rid of that. They've gone more for boots on the ground, to steal a Call of Duty terminology. And it works well. You've got, you know, it's all about class specific stuff now. So you're back to having weapons that you can only use in the particular class. So I believe Battlefield 1 had that as well, but it seems to have even doubled down on that even more. You've got multiple leveling systems. You know, you've got your classes that level, but then the weapons level as well. So there's things to unlock and customize about how weapons play, which is quite nice. For example, I play as the medic predominantly. I like playing that support class, and I like their SMG loadouts. And within that, I have a particular submachine gun that I like, which I can. There's like 2 branches to specialize it, and you can specialize down the iron sight route or the hip fire route. For example, like, do you want faster reloading, or do you want more accuracy from the hip, as an example? So, you know, you can choose how to customize your character. There's lots of cosmetics. The microtransactions that, when they are enabled inside Battlefield, will purely be cosmetic. There are already things to buy from the store, but you can only buy them using currency you earn in the game. So you can have different outfits. My squad is entirely female, both for my allies and my Axis, because I don't know, that's fun, isn't it? That's cool. I have some silly hats. I have a couple of silly outfits. It's quite cool. I like that. It's a laugh. But yeah, it's Battlefield, isn't it? I mean, like, what can I say that isn't been the same? You know, you spawn in your squad, you spawn at supply points, you can spawn into vehicles now, like always. You know, air combat feels good. Vehicle combat feels good. I'd say time to death is a bit quick. That they are looking into tweaking that at the moment. The news story just came out. You maybe go down a little bit faster than you used to in a Battlefield game, which feels a bit more like a Call of Duty, rather than. I always found Battlefield was somewhere between Call of Duty and Halo. You know, it was kind of in that middle area of, if you got shot, you'd have time to react and you could drop the enemy. It's a bit too close to in this, that if an enemy sees you first, you're dead.
That's why I always preferred Battlefield.
Yes, same.
Because I'm not the fastest. I'm not a
Twitch it gave you a chance to outthink your opponent, get behind cover, go prone, dive off an edge of something or over something into cover. You know, now it feels a bit like as soon as you're seen, almost, you can get dropped. But spawns are quick. You know, you can get straight back into the battle again because you can spawn your squad. They've actually brought in this squad camera now. So when you're looking to spawn onto your squad, you can see where they are. Like, it shows you what they're doing. So instead of just saying, Jim, and you see the map overlay, you can now actually see what they're doing when you spawn into them, to give you a better idea of what class to go in with or what you need to be ready to deal with, which is a nice improvement. And it still has those crazy moments. You know, in my first match, I was going through a village in rural France. I'm fighting my way through, you know, and all of a sudden the Spitfire pretty much lands on top of my head. And I'm like, what's up? It doesn't kill me. And I'm jump over the wing, and I'm shooting a dude who's coming over to find out what's going on, you know, and I kill that guy, and then I'm going around the corner. Yeah, so it's got those Battlefield moments you only get from Battlefield. That's all still there, and it's all what makes it still my favorite type of shooter. It's still a lot of fun because there's so much variety to what can happen. You know, there's not that many maps in there at the moment. It certainly in early access felt quite rough. Like, there were some glitches and stuff, but that seems to have been massively patched since the game went live. So things are much more stable now. It's got that weird thing like that Battlefront had, where it takes you ages to quit out, which is still really frustrating. You know, when you go quit to menu and you've played enough. Yeah, but it takes so bloody long.
Like 90 seconds.
What is it doing? That's still there, and I still can't understand why that takes so long. That can be frustrating when you just want to quit the game, but you don't want to lose your experience points. You know, you don't want to lose what you gained, because if you just hard quit, you're going to lose all of that. So, you know, you want to save it. That's odd. That's still a problem, but yeah, it looks great. It looks really, really nice, no doubt about it. The single player is pretty good fun. Though I had a hilarious glitch in that, which I told you about in the greatest podcast never to be recorded, which was hilarious in that first mission where I was I'm fighting a bunch of like Stukas that are attacking me on an AA gun, and I sort of shoot one, and then it flies behind a mountain, and I lose track of it, and I shoot all the others down, and then there's just one target left on my HUD, and I'm like, where the hell's that? Why isn't it moving? And there's this one target, and it's not my, oh god, is it glitched out? Am I fucked? Am I going to do this whole thing again? So I start walking towards this waypoint, and I find this Stuka, and it's like parked in a gully behind a mountain outside of the play area. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like it dived out of the way. It should have exploded, but it didn't, or something. And it's just stuck still there. And thankfully, I can just about take a few pot shots with my own rifle to like blow it up and then progress the mission. It's like that would have been really irritating if I hadn't been able to get to that. But thankfully, I was able to. So yeah, it's a bit buggy, a bit glitchy, as Battlefront games always are, but there's kind of a charm to it. Unlike we were just talking about Fallout's glitches, which are just sort of frustrating and irritating. Yeah. The actual core gameplay in this is still good, is still solid. The gunplay still feels really good. There are some really fun maps. I mean, even though the only problem is that those Grand Operations maps, they're a real investment in time, because the to and fro, it takes so long, but it is so much fun. You can play, of course, team deathmatch and smaller scale matches, but I feel like if you're doing that, why have you got Battlefront or Battlefield, I should say? You know, why are you bothering with that? Play Call of Duty. You want to be playing those giant conquest maps or the giant Grand Operations matches. Those are what it's all about. That's kind of it, man. Like, it's good. 3 stars. That's what I gave it. So I had a good time. Any questions as you're, you know about the series? Anything you want to know?
I don't know if it's just a time thing for me, but I used to really, really love Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. I put a lot of time into both of them, and then kind of just fell off it with Battlefield 1. I'd like to get back into it again, but I don't know. It really sucks time, doesn't it? And if you're saying that matches now take an hour, I'm thinking this might be even harder for me to get into.
Not all matches. Not all matches take an hour, but some can certainly take a long time. In Grand Operation specifically, yeah, because it's like each Grand Operation is actually like 4 multiplayer matches almost across these different days, and the map will evolve and change, and it will go to different locations and sort of within the same within its same sort of setting. Yeah, so yeah, it's a bit strange. It's a bit strange, but it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get it at some point, because I'd like to do the campaign at least. Maybe.
Yeah, the story is good, man. It's got there's some fun stuff in there that goes across different environments of the battlefield and different environments of World War II that you wouldn't necessarily have expected. It really deals with some different kind of stuff, which is kind of fun. Like, yeah, there's Norway and south of France. And the first one was all about this dude getting recruited from prison because he had some experience trying to blow up safes, and he was being recruited into the SBS, which I thought was quite fun. And there's a lot of like over the top, like lads, sort of like London voices, mate. A lot of that going on, which was quite amusing. But yeah, it was good. It was good fun. But I mean, it is very much like, take a break, guys. Take a break. We've had a lot of this. This is very similar to Battlefield 1. Yeah, with a few more bugs, but they've already been mostly ironed out, so it's okay. Richard, the Gardens Between that just ended. Yeah. You were trying to get me to play it. I haven't had a chance yet. I'm definitely going to look at it soon. But yeah, tell me about the Gardens Between.
Gardens Between. I was looking forward to this because I'd heard about it on another podcast and was waiting for it to come out for Xbox. I think it's been out on Switch for a little while. But the Xbox version's just come out and it's gone straight into Game Pass. So ideal, really, because for a game I was considering buying anyway, don't have to now. And it's just as well because it's only about 90 minutes, 2 hours long. And if you are going to buy it, it's about £17. So it's quite a lot for what you get out of it. But while it lasts, great experience. The Gardens Between, it's the title refers to the space between 2 friends' houses. So one of the friends is moving house, the other one has been left behind, and the game explores the time that they've shared, these children, and the fun that they've had living next to each other. So it starts in a tree house, between the two houses at the back of the garden, and they're not. There's no discussion. There's no narrative in this. There's no dialogue at all. But it explores their memories with each other visually, and it plays out over sort of abstract worlds that incorporate the things that they've done together. So it might be watching a video, and then you'll walk past this. You'll walk through this environment that has a huge upturned VHS recorder in it that you have to interact with. Or it might be playing video games, or looking through a telescope, or all manner of different things that they've done together and have fond memories of. And they're walking through these abstract environments and through time. So it's sort of exploring the things they've done and the time that they've taken in doing them. And the way that you play it is really odd. All you can do is go through time or rewind back through time. There's literally no other controls. You don't directly control the two characters. They walk through the environments independently, but only when you tell them to. So it's pushing right on the stick or holding down the right trigger to go through time forwards, or left to go backwards. And there are moments in time where pausing matters, or interacting with the background at a particular point matters. So it might be that you walk past, as you're walking forward, it's raining, and then a raindrop will fall on something, and you need to stop time for that raindrop to have an effect on that thing, rather than let it fall and bounce off. A lot of it is gated with sort of keys of light. So one of the characters is carrying a container, and she can pick up a ball of light within it, which will unlock a gate further on in the level. So some of it is, that cup and ball trick where you've got 3 cups and you put a ball under it, and you've got to work out which cup the ball is in. Yeah, it feels like a video gamification of that trick in some ways. So there'll be levels where there's lots of things jumping around all over the place. You've got to work out the thing that you need that has the ball of light on it. How do I get to that? Where has it come from? And can I rewind in time to where it's going to be when I get there? That sort of thing. And you've got to work out, is it that one or that one? And there'll be all sorts of things crossing over behind the environment, and it sort of tricks you as to what's actually going on. So from the opening moments of it feeling like there's not much to this, all you can do is go forwards or backwards, and you can't even control the characters. It feels like it's going to be very linear. It works out really clever ways of complicating your navigation through the environment, and it just feels as if by the end of it, it's not hard, but it feels like you've been challenged, and there's satisfaction in getting through to the summit of all of these environments through some quite inventive means. It doesn't even really repeat the same solutions. There's quite a lot of invention in there on the most basic mechanic you can think of. So yeah, I think visually, I really liked it. I like the idea that it's exploring very personal memories and relationships between these two characters, and the mechanics of it. I just love that when someone comes up with a really simple idea and does lots with it. I think it's such a Nintendo thing to do. I really appreciated this. So even though it's only 90 minutes, 2 hours long, it's well worth your time if you can get hold of it. So give it a go. Sounds
awesome. Yeah, I just thought from what I saw of it, it was another one of those like narrative-driven, emotional point-and-click adventure type things. I had no idea it had like such interesting mechanical stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely. I downloaded it. I'm gonna check it out. I might try and play it this afternoon or something. It'd be a nice Sunday afternoon game, I think, to chill out to.
Yeah.
So I might do that. That sounds awesome. I'm gonna talk about now. This is surprising, right? The best game I reviewed in the last few weeks is Project High Rise Architects Edition on both Xbox One and Nintendo Switch, because I love me some stupid simulation games. And this is all about, this is like a modern Sim Tower. Do you remember Sim Tower? Did you ever play Sim Tower back in the, I had it on 4 floppy disks to show you my age about when I played that game. Floppy disks, mate. That's how far back I am going. And that was a Maxis joint from way back when. It would have been probably after the first SimCity, but before SimCity 2000. And basically, Project High Rise is a similar idea. So instead of building a city outwards, you're building a city upwards, right? So in a tower. So, you know, you've got apartments and offices and shops and restaurants, and it's all about building, expanding, and managing that. And this is a game, obviously, that would work well on a PC. And this is where the game has obviously come from. It's been out for about a year on PC. And now it's come to consoles with all of its expansion packs and everything included. And it's a good port. It's a really good port. They've done a good job making it work on a controller. The only downside on the Switch version is that there's no touchscreen support. Would have been really nice. It would have worked really well. However, once again, a feature underused, possibly because the Switch has to work both docked and undocked. Even though I predominantly play undocked, there are a lot of people that will play on TV. So making something touchscreen enabled is a lot of work that might not then get used, which is a shame, because I think, you know, placing buildings and expanding the tower just using your finger would work brilliantly well. However, despite that, it's still a really, really good, addictive simulation city management game. I really like it. There's a lot of depth to it. You know, you're not just putting the restaurants down, but you're also thinking about what needs electrical wiring, telephone wiring, TV wiring, water, air conditioning. You know, there's a whole bunch of different things to hook up and connect. You're balancing your finances. You've got objectives in there as well. There's a few sort of scenarios you can go through, but predominantly I'm playing in the just build mode, where you can just expand and expand and expand and make the most awesome tower full of businesses and residential stuff and all kinds of things. And you know, if you watch my video, you can see just in the short time how quick, you know, the time playing it, the growth of the tower, and it's really satisfying. It's got a really good feedback loop. You know, the more you build, the more you can build, and it just keeps going up and keeps going out, and until you build this huge megalopolis in the sky. And it just works well. I mean, most people would know about these types of games, know about how these kind of games work, have an idea of that. I don't need to go too much into that. I just think it's a nice console port of a game that you wouldn't have seen on console a lot in the past, but something that's made more possible with the type of architecture that these consoles now have. You know, that these games can come across quite easily and get ported. You know, and we're seeing more and more of them. Hell, I can't wait to see what Paradox does with, for example, with Stellaris. Who knows how that'll work on a console, but I'm very curious. But this isn't made by those guys. I believe this is published by Calypso Media. I can't remember exactly who developed it. It's been a little while since I did the review. But yeah, it's an awesome game that I had great fun playing. It's totally my jam. I love the management games. I love those type of sim games. And yeah, it's just really good fun on console. If you're in the mood for something a bit more chill, you know, it's a nice kind of game. You can play at your own pace. You can slow down time, speed up time. You know, you can just see, you've got that, you know, you can always see how well it's going, you know?
Yeah.
It's just immediate feedback. You're growing and growing and growing. Yeah, it's really good fun. It's really, really good fun. I'll quickly just jump into another one. I bought Tetris Effect, Richard.
You bought it?
I bought it. I know we talked about the demo quite a bit, but I actually bought the full game because I couldn't wait, and it's worth it. It's so beautiful. Oh my God, that game is amazing in VR. Turn the volume up, put the headphones in, get in VR, lose yourself. And man, I found myself getting in the zone. You know, there's a couple of mechanics that are specific to Tetris Effect. You haven't always been able to hold blocks, but that's here. But the other thing is this zone mechanic, which you can activate when you've done enough lines, and that kind of pauses the how to describe it. It sort of pauses the clearing. So you're making lines, but it doesn't make them disappear immediately. So what you've got to try and do is then clear as many lines as possible before the effect goes, and then you get a massive point bonus, and all the lines then clear at once. So, you know, it's still building up and up and up. So, you know, you're getting, if you've got 6 lines that are then, or 8 lines or 10 lines that are queued to clear, most of your screen is then full, which makes it more difficult, obviously. But then it all goes at once and you get a massive point bonus. And I was just, getting in the zone, mate. The music is incredible in some of those levels, tied in with the visuals, tied in with what you're doing. You know, every time you move a block, it will hit a different note or something, and it will add to the experience. It's just the best Tetris ever, and it's one of the best games I played this year. It's just transcendental. It's the kind of game that's a brilliant example of VR if you want to show it off to someone, because everyone knows Tetris. Everyone gets Tetris. You put them in there, play Tetris. Oh, it's just fucking Tetris. Trust me, play Tetris. You know, just get in there. You will get sucked into that world, and you just get into such a rhythm. I was like in a dream state playing that game. Like you are the game, and you're just sucked into it, and it's hypnotic. And what do they call it? Synesthesia, isn't it? That's the word. And it 100% nails it. Some of those levels. Oh man. Oh my god.
It's so expensive.
Good. It is expensive. I used the credit from trading in my old phone to buy it. So it is expensive, especially at Christmas when you should be buying for other people. That's what you do. But it's oh man, perfect video game, absolutely amazing. And in VR, I haven't tried it outside of VR yet. It's meant to look very nice as well in 4K with HDR as well. I can imagine that looking beautiful on a nice TV like we've got, Rich. But you know, in VR, even with the slight resolution problems, even with the screen door effect in PSVR, it's not the best VR. It's something else, man. It's special. You just feel completely immersed.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Everybody, if you have a PSVR, for God's sake, get that game. Like, just everybody should get that game. I went and got some stuff on Switch as well. I've been meaning to buy. Bought Octopath Traveler, which is the big Square Enix old school JRPG. Absolutely gorgeous to play. I'm really early days on this. Playing it differently to how I would normally play an RPG. I'm playing as the apothecary. I'm not playing as a warrior. I'm not playing as a mage. I'm playing as a dude who makes potions. And he's just really,
because that game is going to go on for millions of years, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It's kind of, my intention is to just have a little game on the Switch that I can just always be going back to. I'm not going to try and mainline it, but I'm just going to keep, chugging along. I'm not even out of the tutorial yet properly, but I just fancied an old school JRPG, turn-based combat, gorgeous visuals, incredibly well written, like fantastically well written dialogue. And it just it's a world. It feels like a proper fantasy world. Really well set up, really well established so far. Just having a lovely time. What do you want to? Oh, you played some Donkey Kong.
Yeah, it was in the sale, on Black Friday sale. So it was only, he says only,
it's like 30 quid, wasn't it?
Yeah, 30 odd quid for a game that came out on Wii U 4 years ago. So not quite a deal, I suppose, in that context, but I'm enjoying that. Nintendo, innit? Nintendo platformer. So it's got bits that are easy, bits that are infuriating, that you just want to keep trying until you do them. I am enjoying that. It's been a long time since I've played a challenging platformer that's in that traditional vein. I suppose I've played Dead Cells, but, not the same, is it?
Game of the Year contender, Dead Cells, yes.
Yeah, it's up there. It'll be on the list, that.
Talking about Game of the Year contenders, I've gone back to Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah?
I want to finish that off. Have you started playing yours yet? Because I know you bought it.
Barely. Yeah.
Okay.
I went mental last week and bought loads of games, so not all of them have had a look in.
We were gonna, in the previous the greatest podcast ever made. We were gonna talk about sales, weren't we? And what we were gonna get and stuff. But that's all kind of come and gone now, so we won't talk about it like now. But you picked up Spidey. You picked up a few things, didn't you?
I can't remember what I did buy, but yeah,
so much stuff.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of stuff. My credit card was going to be done by the end of December. Not anymore.
No, it's just starting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went back to Spider-Man. I'm in the final act. I've gone through about half the bosses I know I've got to face. I'm going to push through to the end, maybe get into some of the DLC, because that's going to be in my list. That's going to be high up my list. It's a very, very good game. It's made me love Spider-Man in a way I've never loved that character. Like, I am proper into Spidey now. I'm reading the comics. I've got my tickets booked for the Into the Spider-Verse movie, which I'm really excited about. The reviews have been incredible for that, so really looking forward to checking that out next week. I am in.
Give it more time then. I bought it specifically because I knew it was going to be one point of discussion for the Game of the Year stuff.
Oh yeah, strong.
So yeah,
strong
I need to put some more time in before Christmas.
You did play some superheroes though. You got Injustice 2.
Yeah, it was only £9 in the sale.
Very good.
There's a lot of game in there for that.
Oh, it's huge, man.
campaign's really good. I didn't really play very much of the first Injustice. So I can't remember if it was the same. I imagine it was. But the way the single-player campaign pans out across multiple character arcs, rather than it just being, here's one character, here's them going to buy a pizza at the end, or some, stupid bullshit story that doesn't make any sense at all. It does make sense in this because it covers all the characters. There's a reason for them to be doing what they're doing. Suppose it would make sense, wouldn't it? Because they're all comic book characters. That's their strength, is the story. It's not like it's Mortal Kombat or something.
Well, you say that, but NetherRealm started this style of story with the first Injustice, then they brought it to Mortal Kombat X, this kind of skipping around the different character perspectives, and now Injustice 2 as well. But no, these guys do the best fighting game stories out there, without a doubt. Like, they're really, really good at it in NetherRealm. Yeah, really, really good.
I was playing it thinking, this is probably better than the Justice League movie.
Wouldn't be hard. It's a low bar. Yeah. Low bar. Well, the weird thing is the what is it? It's BVS, Batman versus Superman, is actually kind of inspired by Injustice, because it has that bit about, that bit in the film where it's like Dark Superman.
Yeah.
That comes from the Injustice game and the comics that then span off of that. So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because Snyder is clearly a fan of that sort of evil Superman storyline. But no, Injustice 2's got a great story. Have you finished it yet?
I have finished it, and I've started going through some of the more, video gamey bits of it. So unlocking.
Who's your main character? Who's your main? Batman. Who are you trying to specialize? Batman.
Yeah.
Mine was Green Arrow. So, well, I need to get online and school you on some Green Arrow at some point soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Show you how it's done. Show you how it's done, baby. Oh yeah, you know it. It's got some really good DLC characters. Did you get the Ultimate Edition for £9 or just the basic one?
No, it's the basic one. I figured it wasn't really worth the extra, because it was £9 for the basic one. The Ultimate Edition with an extra 8 characters was 25.
There's some really good characters in there, though. Like, really good. You got all the Turtles, Starfire. She's really good in that. Yeah, really, really good. Turtles are fun.
I just they're not in the story. Yeah, Hellboy. They're not in the story though, are they? And I figured I'm not going to be playing this with anybody really. I'm pretty much going to do it for the campaign. And if they're not in it, it's not worth paying 3 times the price.
Nah, probably not. I mean, yeah, the difference between less than a tenner and over £20 is kind of substantial when you're looking at sale prices. Yeah, so that makes sense. That makes sense. I just want to quickly mention as well that I picked up Into the Breach again after already buying it on PC. I've now got it on Switch, and I've already spent more time playing it on Switch than I did on PC, which is why I did that, because I'm a chump. That game is an amazing little tactical game, little strategy game. It is such a cool game. It's the idea that you're these time traveling mechs that are trying to go back in time to stop this kind of alien invasion. Well, they're actually kind of creatures coming up from inside the earth, destroying the planet, and you have to try and just save the day on these little boards, these little isometric boards. It actually plays more like a puzzle game in a way, because there are definite solutions to getting the most out of each board, and using the different groups of mechs that you get. It has a really nice upgrade cycle. It has a really nice roguelike element to it. That word that's whenever you hear now is starting to sow fear into people who talk about video games.
Really,
we're so sick of roguelikes. Dead Cells, however, man, come on, Dead Cells.
Yes,
you can make these games sublime. It does happen. And I think Into the Breach is definitely one of the best examples of that. That and Dead Cells. I think Into the Breach might be on my go-to list. I have to check when it exactly came out on PC, though. It might have been last year. But no, seriously good. I mean, the one game that you've got on here, which I'd like you to touch upon, because Chris did the review for it, and he's sadly not with us right now. But tell me about Farming Simulator 2019 to close out the show.
Really? I can't talk about it too much, because you sent me this just as I was getting into my massive sale period and bought a load of games. I have played it, but I can't say I've played it enough to differentiate it from the other Farming Simulator games I've played. What have I done? 2015 and 17, I think. So I have a year on, have a year off. it's that fallow field period in
farming puns.
Yeah, see,
love it.
And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's really improved. It still looks retrograde. It's really low res, low frame rate, very little detail there. But mechanically, it still feels unsatisfying. What you want when you're ploughing a field or planting your crops and whatever, you want it to feel satisfying. So when you've done it, you think, yes, that is a perfectly ploughed field, right? Well, that's what I do. It's like popping bubble wrap, innit? Do you know what I mean? You just want it to pop, and it pops. And there's a satisfaction to doing it. Farming Simulator 2019 still feels like it's a bit too imprecise. So you weaving about over the edge of the field when you're trying to get your tractor going over it. You don't quite get to the edge when you're laying your seeds, so it's slightly uneven. I don't know. I feel like there should be a bit more uniformity to it to make it feel like it's a satisfying experience. I never feel like I'm a very good farmer because it's always too messy. And it really harms my enjoyment of it. I don't feel like I'm very good. Coupled to that, it's always a really hard slog anyway, because there's so much to do on the farm. If you're going to make any money out of it, the idea is plant crops, harvest them, sell them, repeat, buy more equipment, plant more stuff next time. It's all there. You've got all the bits that you need to do it, but it's just, I don't know. I don't particularly enjoy doing it myself. I don't think the gameplay loop on the way to achieving that financial success on your farm is enjoyable for me. I think they need to do more work around the mechanics of it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think you did miss that many because they don't come out every year, Farming Simulator.
I thought they did.
They sometimes skip years. I was looking at the wiki page. It's weird. Like the in-between years are often their mobile/B console releases.
Right.
So they don't always hit the major platforms every single year. It's a confusing way, even though they number them sequentially. It's a bit odd, but that does seem to be how they do it. Okay, fair enough. But check out Chris's full review on the site for a more in-depth look. He is the simulator expert, as it were.
Yes.
So I think that brings us to the end of this podcast for the year. This will probably be this will almost certainly be the last bits and bobs. I might come back with a bonus babble next week to talk about any big announcements / awards from the VGAs, depending on what comes out of them. They are airing at like 1:30 in the morning UK time on Friday. I might stay up. It depends how.
VGAs being the Video Game Awards.
Well, they're just called the Game Awards now, aren't they? I should stop calling them VGAs because they're not called the VGAs.
When I said it, I thought, it's not called that. It's just the Game Awards now.
Yeah, they dropped it when I think when it came off of Spike, they had to Keighley had to change the name. But so the Game Awards, I should say, are on at that time. And yeah, we've got some rumors that then there might be some cool stuff coming out of that. So we at least know about Obsidian's thing is definitely going to be there. Rocksteady already debunked the rumor that they'd be there showing a Superman game. That's not happening. But the rumor is about 6 big announcements, I think they've said. So worth checking out for that. Always worth checking out that show, actually. There's often some fun, awkward bits. And do you know what, to be honest, as lovers of gaming, I think it's probably the Oscars equivalent for us, right? And I think it's good to watch that show just to sort of acknowledge and thank the creators behind the products we love so much and the games we love so much, because they often don't get enough recognition. They really don't. There's the biggest problem with the gaming community, the fans, is that they see the products and they kind of believe they exist in isolation. They don't understand that people make them. They don't just appear. These are made by real people that often don't get a lot of compensation. They don't get a lot of acknowledgement for what they've done. So yeah, watching the Oscar equivalent for games is important. So don't just watch the announcements. Don't just look out for the trailers. Try and watch the show. Try and watch the bits where you see those creators come up on the stage and they take their gong and they're actually accepting something for the hard work they've put in. It is important, especially as the industry grows and hopefully gets through these trying times. So yeah, I'm going to check that out. And we'll be back early to mid-January. Haven't got an exact date yet for our annual Game of the Year awards. We might even have a returning alumni, possibly, from podcasts of yore. We are in discussion and, you know, difficult contractual debates. You know, he's got a tricky rider. You know, he's expecting a certain amount of remuneration. I'm not sure we can really get to that, mate, but we'll do our best. We'll do our best to try and bring him back to discuss the games of the year, some of our favorites, and maybe some even games of previous years. We're changing things up, aren't we, Richard, this year? The formula is streamlined,
so it should be an easier listen.
An easier record, you mean, Richard? Yeah, I don't think the listening's any more difficult. I think it's the recording that's going to be the easier bit, yeah, for yourself more than anything. But no, I like what we've done. I like the new idea. It should be an interesting format change, so I'm very much up for that. And that'll be in January. So have a lovely Christmas, man, to you and to all our listeners.
Yes, and Merry Christmas to all. Ho, ho, ho.
Merry Christmas. I hope you get the games you want, and I hope you don't have to play, I don't know, what would suck? Sounds like the PlayStation Mini would suck. That's what I'm hearing. Hope you don't get that. Not a good emulation job they've done there, is what I'm reading.
I think it's going to be a very Nintendo Christmas for me.
Okay.
I'm getting Pokemon. I'm getting Smash Brothers. I know that I've got the Pokeball controller already. Oh my God. I've seen it. I've touched it.
That's two games I really don't want, so I hope I don't get either of those.
Well, that's a bummer. I was kind of hoping someone I know would get Pokemon, but never mind.
Why?
Can you trade online now? Surely there must be.
The bit that's put me off is that it's the whole Pokemon Go style catching of Pokemon. You're not battling them. I'm not interested.
You can still battle though, right? You can
only gym leaders and trainers. Yeah. So that just seems weird. You're taking out half the game. You know, that's what that sounds like. I mean, that sounds to me like the game's going to be really short, basically. Like if all you've got to do to catch Pokemon is just toss a ball.
I don't know. It's all in the mechanics, isn't it? I'll have to see how it feels. But
you're a Smash Brothers guy as well, are you? Because I've never understood that.
More in the collectible stuff. I really like the fan service of Smash Brothers, having so many characters in one place. I love that.
Okay.
So it's more that than the game itself, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. So I'm sure I'll speak to you again yourself, Richard, before Christmas. But to all of our lovely listeners and viewers, have a lovely Christmas, have a great New Year, and we'll be back in January for Game of the Year with hopefully at least one special guest. Fingers crossed. So until then, we're going to say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.